All right, we'd like to say welcome to the community as we come together to look at what we're going to do for the school year. Thank you to our community members for entrusting in us to devise a plan that will allow us to be able to come back to school and provide an education for our students. I'd also like to say thank you to our board members who have looked at the different options that we have been able to get from a number of different places, including the Georgia Department of Education, the Governor's Office, Georgia Department of Health, along with the CDC and local guidance from our health officials. I'd also like to say thank you to our staff members that participated in our Google Hangout yesterday. There were some small technical difficulties, but we did have a meeting with our faculty that allowed the faculty to give us feedback based on the plans that we are looking at. I'd like to say thank you to the staff members that did provide that feedback, and I look forward to working with you this school year. I would also like to say thank you to our leadership team. Countless hours have went into us for us to be able to put together a plan that addresses some of the options that we'll need to look at for our students this year to give them the best option for their education. We understand that this plan will not be perfect, but unfortunately, our meeting today highlights the fact that education has temporarily changed, and we will have to do some things a little bit different to meet the needs of our students for this school year. We do ask, as we get into this meeting, that parents be very mindful that when we submit our forms this year during pre-planning, that we need current email addresses, phone numbers, and other contact information in the event that we need to get in contact with you. This will be something that we can do fairly easy. A lot of the information that we will have this year will require that you give us this information. So please, at any point during the school year that this may change, we ask that you update it and let the schools know these changes. At this time, we're going to go ahead and start with some of the medical questions that have been presented. And I would like to also say to our community that we had over 350 questions submitted as of last Friday before we shut the window down for us to be able to put a list together of things that we wanted to address with our community members. It's important that we have the feedback from our community, and the questions that were posed to the district about the school year were some that we hadn't looked into. So I thank you for the diligence of the questions and your commitment to your child's safety and education. So at this time, I would like to ask Dr. Kurt if he would come up and address some of the questions that you had for our district.
Good evening. So, Dr. Kirkman Syke, Jeff Davis, walk-in clinic local physician here, as well as serving as the medical director of the local health department. I've been asked to help out clarify some of these things. The questions that were put in, I want to thank y'all because they're absolutely wonderful, not only as a physician, but as a parent of students, in the school system. A lot of these questions were absolutely on our minds as well as parents going into this. So I thank you for those. We're going to go through these kind of one at a time. Number one, the question came up of the procedure for students and staff with a fever. So if you are found with a fever, and that is defined now as an excess of 100.4 Fahrenheit, and we'll talk about the temperature checks and how that will occur a little bit later. If someone is found, student or staff, with fever, they are sent home at that time immediately, or as quickly as possible, and they will be tested, as well as they must have a negative test in order to return, and a 14-day quarantine period as per the CDC and the Department of Public Health guidelines at this time. The procedure for someone who is expected that is exposed to this, so same kind of situation. If you are exposed, say, so in the community or in your household, suspected exposed to someone who is positive for COVID-19, again, you would be sent home from school. You would be required to have a negative test or 14 days quarantine period and be symptom-free. So the symptom-free question came up. That is defined by the CDC now with COVID-19 as being 3 days without fever and having used no antipyretics or anything that would reduce a fever. So your Tylenol, your Motrin, these kind of things that would lower that. So without one of those, fever-free for 3 days would be defined as being symptom-free. What we're seeing right now is that quarantine period of 14 days appears to be the right number. So the 14 days, negative test, 3 days, symptom-free to come back. Okay, next, the contact tracing. So a question came up of, if someone was positive, how do we trace these things? So contact tracing in the state of Georgia is going to be handled by the Department of Public Health, so that's not under the schools thing. So when we have an outbreak, the Public Health Department at that point will come in, and we will begin the contact tracing on who was exposed to what, where this came from, and that kind of thing. Notification of positive test results. Now, this was a popular question, and I totally get it. One thing that I need to be clear about is that we are all wonderfully protected by HIPAA laws. So your personal medical information is protected, and that's a great thing. It makes it kind of tricky in this situation because, of course, when someone has some medical information, for instance, being positive for COVID-19, that is that patient's personal information. So as a healthcare provider, what happens is when we test someone positive for COVID-19, our speech then to that patient becomes, and you need to notify whoever this is going to affect, whether that be family members, whether that be your employment, whether that be the school system in this case. So it is up to that particular patient to give their personal protected information. As physicians, we cannot give out that protected information. So what will happen is, in the best case scenario, a parent will be, or someone a child tests positive, for instance, if they follow our directions, they will be disseminating their own information to the school system. The school system, in that point, will then notify folks that came into contact through our contact tracing, or however the classroom, or however who was ever exposed, and list this in a protected way. So of course we will not be able to give specifics, as that would violate HIPAA law, but we say that you have a possible exposure and that you should act accordingly. I believe that's it on my medical questions. So thank you. I hope that helps y'all.
Thank you, Dr. Kirk. On Monday, the superintendents across Georgia had a conference call with Governor Kemp, State Superintendent Woods, and also Department of Public Health, Dr. Toomey. And a lot of the information that was shared during this conference call was about the state's response to Georgia's path of K-12 reintroduction into a school year. A lot of the information that was provided on Monday's conference call has led to us to be able to create our plan for our upcoming school year. I would like to say that this plan will be fluid. You know, it could change at any time. And as we've seen in the last couple of days, you're hearing a lot of information about spikes in the number of cases. Currently, as of yesterday, I believe Jeff Davis County had 158 positive cases in our county, with a population of roughly 15,000 residents. So when you look at it, we got roughly a little better than 1% of our population with a positive test result. As test results come back, that number could fluctuate, and that could also impact the model of delivery of instruction that we will have to be able to provide for your students in their education. At this time, we have looked at 3 different models of delivery of instruction for our students. The first of which is option A, which is traditional start to school, while also offering parents the option of a online remote learning. This will be the model that we will be utilizing moving forward unless something changes with our COVID numbers. And within this model of coming back in a traditional manner, we're trying to bring back our students as safely as possible in a manner in which doesn't require a lot of changes for our students. Our students need the security and the boundaries of a normal school year, while also being able to provide them the normal education that they would normally receive. We understand that they are concerns, which is the whole reason that we've looked at a number of different questions you've submitted, and I can't thank Dr. Kirk and his staff enough with providing us feedback on how we would be able to implement any of the models that we've looked at. But option A is what we're looking at implementing, and again, that is a traditional return to school while giving parents the option of an online remote learning educational model. Option B is also something that we've looked at, and it would be our next step if we were to see a change in our COVID numbers, and it required us to be a little more restrictive with our students. And this was basically a hybrid model where students may come on an A-B schedule. We are trying to protect our students as much as possible, and this model would restrict some of the access our students would have. In this model, we would also offer parents the option of online and remote learning. And then our third option would be a total remote online learning for all students, and this would be in the event that we saw a major rise in COVID numbers after we had already went to our second model of a hybrid A-B, and that it could be something that our governor or Department of Health steps in and says, at this time, we need to shut off schools down in this area. When looking at this, the hybrid A-B model, without going into great detail, but I do appreciate our leadership teams and our principals and their staffs to work on this so that in the event that we have to move to this, we are prepared. We have a plan in place for this, but there will be additional training that is necessary. Within this plan, we would look at pre-K through 5th grade coming every day, but the classes being smaller, and 6-12 students would be on an A-B schedule where middle school may come on Monday, Wednesday, high school Tuesday, Thursday, and they would alternate the Fridays. From this model, 6-12 would be through, their classes would be through Odysseyware, while also assignments being given to our students through their content academic teacher on Google Classroom. This model does involve the use of a facilitator with Odysseyware versus the in-class person teacher given that instruction. So while this model does still allow us to be able to provide our students the education through Odysseyware and Google Classroom, it prevents 6-12 from being able to have that in-person instruction from their content teacher. So it's a much more restrictive model for us to implement. Therefore, we would wait until a situation necessitated us move from a traditional model to this model. As Dr. Munsayet mentioned, we will be having temperature checks for all staff and students throughout the school year, or until we get a recommendation that this is no longer required. Our staff, when they report to school, will have their temperature checked, and also students, whether they're a car rider or if they're a bus student, they will have their temperature checked, and we will have monitors on our buses to help our bus drivers with this. We do ask that parents be proactive in helping with this. If you wake up in the morning and take your child's temperature and it's above the recommended temperature, there's a great chance that that child will not be able to come to school just because of guidance that we've received. They will not be able to come to school if that temperature is above 100.4. So especially in the situation of bus students, if that student has a temperature above 100.4, they will not be able to come to school that day. So it's going to be important that we have someone at the house that can watch that child and make sure that we have something in place for them so that that child does not have to ride the school bus and be quarantined, potentially exposing other students in the process. In the event of your child being a car rider and they come to school, we will have people outside the schools that will check student temperatures before you leave. And if if the student has a temperature above the recommended amount, we will ask that that student go home until their temperature is at a safe temperature. When looking at lunches and breakfast, a number of questions submitted by our community members revolved around the social distancing and how would we be able to provide meals to our students. Our principals are continuously addressing this, and it may look a little bit different at each of our schools, but we will have plans in place that will allow our students to safely eat breakfast and lunch during the school day. And if your child does decide to come to school under the traditional model, we will have a plan in place that effectively addresses that. I don't go into detail at this point what that looks like, just from the standpoint our numbers may change as how that looks based on the survey that we would do at the end of this community forum. We will ask that community members provide us feedback so we have a good idea about how many students are looking at the traditional model versus the remote online option. We will be sending this survey out. One of the things that we do ask with the survey, this survey will go out as soon as we conclude the community forum, but we'll only leave that survey open until Friday, and we're asking that everyone watching participate in the survey so that we can have that information by Friday. And the reason we need to know by Friday the results of this survey is for us to finalize that plan. We need to know what our community is looking at. Also, after tonight's community forum, we will send home a at-home learning commitment form. If you and your family decide that online learning will be the option you choose for your child, we will need some type of commitment so we understand that's what you're asking us to provide your child. That online learning commitment form must be completed by next Thursday, and that will be July the 23rd. So if this is an option that you want, and we want to provide parents this option, we do not want kids coming to school whether they feel unsafe or if the parents and family members, this option is not safe. Each family needs to make that decision based on their individual needs. Some students will have pre-existing conditions that may limit them from being able to have the traditional schooling. We would not want to put them in harm's way, and we'll speak a little bit further on this topic a little bit later, but we want to just really reiterate the times. This Friday, please have all survey information provided to us, and then if you so choose to use the online remote learning, we will need that home learning commitment form back to us by next Thursday. Lastly, I just want to touch on, there were some questions about testing. At this time, the state of Georgia has submitted a waiver to the U.S. Department of Education to waive testing for this school year. In addition to testing, they are looking at waiving CCRPI, which is the instrument they look at to kind of help us judge our growth or the different levels of items that we are monitored from a school district standpoint and school standpoint. But both testing and CCRPI are items that Georgia Department of Education submitted a waiver to for us not to have that this school year. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Crosby to go over in greater detail some of the safety measures that we will have for this school year.
Thank you, Dr. Ropey. Again, my name is Chuck Crosby. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I deal mainly with facilities and operations. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about facilities and our plans on sanitizing and disinfecting our facilities. Recently, we paired up with a company by the name of Ecovasive. They will be performing spraying throughout all of our facilities, playgrounds, buses, athletic facilities. This spraying was an electrostatic type spray. And basically what that is, once the product hits the surface, it wraps itself around it. And we're hoping this will provide us an extra layer of protection from viruses and bacteria. This particular product supposedly lasts for 90 days. So we'll be doing this on a quarterly basis throughout this school year. Also, our cleaning at schools. We will have enhanced daily cleaning and weekly cleanings. This will mainly, especially in the high-touch surface areas, we will be really focusing in on those areas, as well as playground equipment. We'll be spraying our playground equipment on a daily basis with a electrostatic type spray. This will be done on a daily basis also. Hand sanitizer. We have acquired, or in the process of acquiring, hand sanitizer for all classrooms, for all facilities. It'll be spaced throughout all of our facilities. And of course, we'll be encouraged all students to use it frequently as far as staff members to use this hand sanitizer. And finally, our water fountains. Water fountains will be shut off. Water fountains will not be utilized this year, so we encourage all of our parents and students to bring water to school, our staff members also to bring water to school, because that will not be available through the water fountains that has been in the past. And finally, I just want to let you know that we're going to do everything possible to keep these schools clean, disinfected, sanitized. We're going to follow all the CDC guidelines, Department of Public Health guidelines, and we'll continuously stay on this. Thanks to our school board, Dr. Kirk, Dr. Ropey, for giving us information that we need in order to provide this layer of safety for both our staff and students. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donna Wilcox, and I am the Director of Special Education. We had some really excellent questions asked of the Special Education Department by parents, and we really do appreciate you participating in this and asking these questions. One question that was asked was about masks for special ed students. At this time, we are not requiring any students to wear masks. If you have a student and you feel very strongly that you would like for them to wear a mask, and they are having problems with that, if you will let us know or let the teacher know, we will be glad to work with that child on wearing a mask. So just know that they are not required to do that, though. Also, we had questions about medically fragile students. The health and safety of our students is our #1 priority. If your child is medically fragile, we encourage you to look closely at both of the options that we have presented and determine if you feel that this is your option. If you choose for your child to attend school, we will discuss placing your child on intermittent hospital homebound. Placing them, they may already be placed on homebound, so we will look at that, and in cases where outbreaks of sickness occur, these students will be given remote at-home learning until it is deemed safe that they can return to school. Also, we had a question about instruction. We will offer the full continuum of services. IEP teams will make decisions on the appropriate services based on the choice of setting made by the parents and the needs of the student. So I'd like to say that if you have any questions concerning individual situations, please contact our office. We are here to support our students and their parents. So please give us a call, and we will be glad to help you. At this time, Mr. Kelly McClune will be coming up.
Thank you. My name is Kelly McClune. I'm Director of Technology here at the school system. And I just want to take a couple minutes to answer some questions related to technology. Everybody knows technology is an integral part of our school system and for instruction from our teachers to our students. And some of the things I want to talk about to begin with is what we would call I'll put in my Dr. Fauci disclaimer here. This is our ideal scenario when we talk about traditional school starting back. If you, as a household, choose to go to the online remote home learning setup, our goal is to, and again, when the survey goes out, it's important for everyone to fill out the survey and get it back to us as soon as possible. because we're going to use those numbers to determine what kind of equipment we can provide, how many, et cetera. For example, if the numbers come back reasonable, we think our ideal scenario is we can provide a school-provided Chromebook for each student to use at home for the online learning to be able to keep up with their studies and their class and their teacher. If the numbers obviously shoot up to, I think we have approximately 3,000 students in our school system, maybe a little more. If those numbers come back, 1,000 or 1,200, just some crazy number, all bets are off. We'll have to regroup and come up with another game plan. But again, if it's a decent number, low enough number, we want to provide a school device. And here's why: because we can filter those devices, we can control them, the teachers can support them much better and manage their classes much better when we provide a device. Also in that survey is going to be some questions about your home internet connectivity. If you have good internet, then that's good, it's great, you're ready to roll. If you live in an outlying area in the community, your internet service may either be non-existent or spotty at best. We'll get numbers from the surveys back, and based on that, we do have some CARES Act money that we are going to provide or be able to purchase some mobile hotspots to put in a home. They allow the school-provided Chromebook to connect to the hotspot, which basically gives you a good internet access, and then you basically got the classroom environment right there at home. And again, that's an ideal scenario. If our COVID numbers increase and we have to go to any of the other plans that Dr. Ropey and Dr. Kirk talked about, we'll have to regroup and readdress some of these questions. I want to talk a little bit about cleanliness and on the Chromebooks. As you know, Chromebooks, laptops, keyboards pick up a lot of germs, as everybody knows. As Mr. Crosby touched on earlier, when we do the sanitizing later in July, the Chromebooks will be taken out, opened up, or at least that's our plan, and they will be sprayed down and cleaned with this disinfectant. And also, we're going to do everything in our power to get the teachers the necessary wipes or disinfectant supplies that on a daily basis, when the kids are through, they're going to wipe these devices down so that they're clean and ready to go for the next day. We're also going to limit how many kids use these devices. In other words, there's a chance we may be able to assign a device for each student, and if that's the case, only your child will have that device. And again, that's an ideal scenario. Worst case scenario, it could be 3 or 4 kids because the device will stay in the classroom, and as your kid goes through his classes during the day, 3 or 4 kids may actually touch that device, but that helps us limit the number of kids and will help us with a contact tracing type scenario in the event that we need to do something like that. And I believe that's it. That's cleaning. And now I will turn this over to the principals. Mr. Chris Campbell.
Hello, my name is Chris Campbell. I'm the pre-K director, and I'd like to first start out by saying how excited our faculty and staff are for our upcoming school year. We can't wait to get our kids back in our schools. The students that go through a highly accredited pre-K program show a 30% greater academic proficiency level in math and English by the 3rd grade compared to students that do not go through a highly accredited pre-K program. And all of our lead teachers at our facility, they are all certified teachers in early childhood. And so we're ready, we're excited. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that we're going to set in place to make sure that we're covering cleanliness and sanitary exercises. We'll have and we'll work hard in making our school the safest environment for our students. In response to sanitation related to COVID, we will teach and practice hand washing with our students and schedule this for every hour. We will also utilize and use hand sanitizer, and our system will be supplying sanitizer for us to use with our students often throughout the day. We will also disinfect our manipulatives. We have manipulatives that we use to teach the different fundamental areas that we're teaching there at the pre-K. And we'll also sanitize the toys that they play with in the centers, and we'll also have the different groups that they go to as small as we can to keep smaller numbers within each group. And not only that, we're gonna really educate our students on the importance and why we hold cleanliness to such a high regard, especially at this time. Our nutritional plan will be available for every student, breakfast and lunch, and we will eat in the classrooms, and I do have a plan so that we'll have smaller groups that eat in different areas, again, to keep the number of students as small as I can within that class. Pre-K will offer remote home learning using the Google Classroom platform and the Lexia academic program, if you decide for your child not to attend traditionally. Younger grades learn better in a classroom setting, especially in developing the fundamental building blocks to help them succeed in their future academic endeavors. Keep that in mind. But we will offer that remote home learning also for those students that may have underlying reasons why the traditional might not work best for them. We're excited about the upcoming year and serving the pre-K students of our community. And I'd like to also say, while I've got a little bit of time, because I haven't seen them in a while, but I'd like to say hey to all my little pre-K friends from last year, and I'm excited about y'all's upcoming year also. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce our new principal at the primary school, and he was also over the kindergarten through second grade, and his name is Mr. Adam Kirby. So he'll be coming up next.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Campbell, my name is Adam Kirby. I am the principal at Jeff Davis Primary School. This is an opportunity for me to introduce myself and tell you how excited I am about the opportunity to work with your students. And at the end of the year, starting in March, I was there about once a week, and so you may have seen me in the pickup line and got to see me a little bit, and I got to meet the staff and work with them, and I'm really excited about the opportunities that we have that we're looking forward to this year. Throughout the summer, we've been preparing the building, trying to get it ready for all the virus things that are going on, and so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be offering a traditional learning environment with various protocols in place. Each classroom has a sink which will allow us to wash hands throughout the day. There'll be procedures in place that allow for breakfast, lunch, and recess to allow for social distancing. So there will be some changes that you'll see from the way they enter the building with the temperature checks to the way they get breakfast and go to the classrooms, and those details will be followed up a little bit as we get closer to the start of school. Playground equipment will be cleaned daily. Mr. Chuck mentioned that earlier. So we will still allow for things like recess, try to create social distancing by limiting the amount of students that are at the playground at one time. Teachers will also review over proper techniques to ensure students are, like Mr. Campbell mentioned a minute ago, using proper techniques to sanitize their equipment and hands and make sure that we are, using good social distancing techniques. So we'll educate them with that as well. We will also offer remote at-home learning. These students will be provided a certified teacher to work with. They will also need an adult learning coach to help assist them at home. More information about this will be provided soon. So the online learning option, obviously as a K through second school, it's a little bit more difficult for those students to just log on. So our learning we'll be providing a certified teacher that will work one-on-one with those students, provide lessons through the Google Classroom platform as well as our Lexia learning platform. And so we will have ask for a commitment from an adult learning coach that will work with those students in the afternoons and the evenings to make sure that they are logging on and able to perform some of the functions that are needed to do the assessments and assignments that will be provided on that platform. Once again, I would like to tell you that we're going to work diligently, and we're looking forward to seeing your students soon. And this time, I will introduce Ms. Deidre Higgins, our elementary school principal.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to take this opportunity to speak with you a little bit about how we plan to mitigate risk at the elementary school. First, with hand washing. We plan to have frequent hand washing breaks, and this will take place daily, where students will be required to wash their hands for at least a minimum of 20 seconds, especially before meals, after restroom breaks, and after sneeze and coughs. Hand sanitizing stations will be available throughout each building. Students and staff are also encouraged to bring hand sanitizer from home. The district will be providing this for our classrooms. However, you are encouraged to bring this if you would like to donate this to your classroom. As far as the school logistics, based upon classroom configuration and to the extent possible, student desks will face in the same direction and students seated at tables will sit on the same side. The sharing of items that are difficult to clean or disinfect will be discouraged. And while ensuring the safety of children to the extent possible, students will eat in the classroom or practice physical distancing in the lunchroom. Non-essential student movement throughout the school day will be limited. Outdoor recess will continue. We will have recess. However, the number of students gathered in one area will be limited. And also, some playground equipment at times may be off limits. Online meal payment in lieu of cash is encouraged. Non-essential visitors, volunteers, and activities involving external groups or organizations will be limited. Mask and temperature checks will be required for any guests entering the school building. In lieu of field trips, assemblies, and special performances, school-wide meetings or events, including open house and curriculum nights, virtual activities will be pursued. Parent and guardian teacher conferences will be held virtually if possible. We also would like to offer an at-home learning option for our students. The feedback that you have provided has been so beneficial in creating this plan. So how will this look in comparison to how it looked 4th 9 weeks of last school year? This is not a separate program or entity from our school district, but rather is a team approach. So this program will provide your student the opportunity to learn at home through Google Classroom with a much more rigorous curriculum base than what we had 4th 9 weeks of the 2019-2020 school year. So students will be expected to spend 4 to 5 hours a day engaged in instruction. They will have a teacher assigned to them. And one of the questions that we received is, would the student be graded? Yes. The student will have grades and report cards. So grading and reporting will be the same as our traditional brick and mortar schools, and teachers will regularly communicate with parents regarding student progress. And so parents would be expected to ensure that students complete the assignments, kind of facilitating the process. We do not expect parents to become the teacher of the student. The student would still have the classroom teacher. However, the parents would just ensure that the assignments were complete through the Google Classroom and facilitate the learning process. We would become a team to ensure the success of your child. And one of the most important questions is, how do students interact? If you choose this at-home learning remote option for your child, how do they interact? So this was really important to our team. How can we make this happen? So we really believe that relationships have always been at the heart of learning and still are. So connecting involves more than just being visible. It means being engaged with students with empathy and compassion in whatever format, so that everyone feels supported and valued. And some of the ways that we intend to build relationships with students with the at-home learning remote environment is morning meetings, small group sessions, one-on-one conferencing, and daily closure. We really feel that this will go a long way in helping students feel comfortable and building relationships. It is our intent to follow the guidelines and go through isolation, but not alienation. We really miss you. We're excited about welcoming all of our students back. We look forward to serving you and your family. Let us know if we can do anything for you. Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Dr. Brent Coleman.
Good evening. My name is Brent Coleman. I'm the principal at Jeff Davis Middle School. And I'm going to reiterate some things that were said earlier. A lot of our plans are very similar. Of course, things change based on the age of the student. But JDMS will offer a traditional and an at-home learning option. The traditional option will be much like our normal school day that we've all been accustomed to, with some added safety measures. The at-home learning will be a combination of teacher-made lessons and Google Classroom, teacher-made lessons in Google Classroom and OdysseyWare lessons. Teachers will check students' online progress regularly to ensure participation, and they'll stay connected through Hangouts and chats. From a safety aspect in the traditional setting, we will stagger transitions, emphasize hygiene and social distance as much as possible. Much like the other schools. In talking with the teachers at JDMS, the common sentiment was that they were ready to see kids again. And I want to reiterate that. We are ready to see our students again. And on behalf of all the teachers at Jeff Davis Middle School, we miss you very much and we cannot wait to see you again. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Greer Smith, the principal at Jeff Davis High School.
Good evening. I'm Greer Smith. I'm the principal at Jeff Davis High School. I'm very excited to be here tonight. Several months ago, didn't know if we'd be here and be able to talk about returning to school. It's been the question everybody's been asking. Are we going to get a chance to come back? Are we going to have the opportunity to get back to a normal start? And I'm pleased to talk with you about several options that we have. First and foremost, though, I want to talk about the safety of our students. And as Mr. Crosby spoke about a while ago, when we talk about from getting on the bus to getting to school, we're going to be screening students. We're going to be taking temperatures getting on the bus. We've already taken preventative measures on the school bus by having echovasive spray for sanitary reasons. Obviously, we're going to encourage the wearing of masks. Not going to require it, but we are going to encourage it if you missed that earlier. Going to make sure that once they get to the building, if they're not a bus rider, especially at the high school, we have students that drive themselves. We have students that are drop-offs as well for our younger kids. We're going to be taking temperatures of those students and of adults that enter the building, our teachers as well. If we see a temperature of 100.4 or higher, we're going to immediately quarantine those students or staff members. We have a designated quarantine area. Once we get those students or staff quarantined, we'll contact a parent or guardian to come pick them up, and we have a plan in place to keep everyone else safe and to sanitize that area once it gets to that point. For us, traditional learning is what it's about. We're trying to make sure for our freshmen, we're introducing you into your future. We're getting you started. We want you to get that journey correctly started. Don't want you to miss any time this year. Juniors, you've already missed half a year. Class of 2020 missed the second half of their senior year. The class of 2021, we don't want you to miss half of your junior year and half your senior year. So making sure that we take care of these things and do the right thing, social distance when necessary, make sure that that we're screening you where we're supposed to be, and do all the preventive measures that we can is primarily the concern that we're looking at here. Traditional learning for us is going to take place just like it always has. There's a couple of places that we may have to make some adjustments, and we have plans for those. Breakfast and lunch, for instance, we have 850 children in this building, so obviously we have to make sure we space them out appropriately when we can. Breakfast and lunch we served for the most part in the rooms, and we have a plan to make sure that we get that to them, but the main thing is we're getting them a good meal in the morning and a good meal at lunch. For class changes, and this is probably the most problematic piece that we have, the other schools have a more regimented class change. When they do move rooms, they're on the blue, they're walking on the hallways. Here at the high school, we have a lot more freedom. This year, we may have to ask you students to help us out. We have to have a plan to flow more efficiently and more spaced out so that we're not a mass of humanity rubbing shoulders on each other in the hallways. But we have a plan for that. We'll be introducing that to you as we get on into the year. But the main point here is that I'm excited that you're coming back. All the teachers are excited that you're coming back. We're going to have a great year. We're going to be able to move forward. Upcoming seniors, you're going to move forward and have a great senior year. Incoming freshmen, we're going to get you started off right for the most important 4 years of your life. Band, PE, weightlifters, athletes, these are things that we've had questions about. We're going to have a normal year for you. However, just like everyone's talked about beforehand, we do have a plan. If you don't feel comfortable coming back into a traditional setting, we do have a remote at-home learning setting that we can provide you. It is based off of the Google Classroom delivery model. Everything will be linked through Google Classroom. Your testing will be through Illuminate, which you're already familiar with, based off of our Chromebooks or any device that you may have. Also, we have some other programs like OdysseyWare that we can help facilitate that through. Very comfortable and excited about making sure that it's not like the end of last year where we were trying to maintain content. We can introduce new content, teach new content, introduce new knowledge to you. I'm excited about that. For us, again, we love you guys, and go Jackets. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Chris Davis, Director of Choices Learning Academy.
I'm Chris Davis. I'm the director of Jeff Davis Choices. We are an alternative education environment for Jeff Davis County School Systems. It's what we've been in the past, and this year we continue to look forward to having our students come back in this environment that we've had been provided for them in the past. We also will, just like the other schools, provide the online version should they choose to do that type of environment. We will also be following the middle school and high school examples as far as the temperature checks, as far as the way that we are going to serve our meals, whether it be breakfast or lunch. We're going to make sure that we can maintain our social distancing, and we're going to provide the best education we can for our students through our environment. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Natalie Hayes, and I'm the Director of Human Resources for Jeff Davis County Schools. And part of my job as the Human Resources Director is to ensure that the policies and procedures that we put in place are keeping both our faculty and our students safe. And so I want to speak to you just a little bit about that tonight. I know that you heard Dr. Mansayak talk about when there's positive cases and how we return to school after a positive case. And I know that's a huge concern for our parents, and not only for our parents, but also our faculty members, and we understand that. Before school starts back, we will have written guidance that will go out to everybody that ensures the steps that people will need to go through in order to return to school. So that's something that will be covered. It will be, written so that everybody follows the same protocol no matter what school we're in. Another thing that we talked about is our medically fragile staff. When we look at our staff members, we do have some medically fragile staff, and the way that we're going to be handling that as a school system is we are going to be handling that on a case-by-case basis. So if you are a staff member that has a medical need, then you'll discuss that with your supervisor, who will then get with myself as the HR director, and we will be following the ADA protocol for the Americans with Disabilities Act on that. We want everybody to feel safe and to feel like they can do the job that they're being asked to do. We also, to ensure the safety of our staff and students, we will be limiting the amount of visitors that come into our buildings. This is strictly from a safety standpoint and not to expose our students any greater than than they already are. And also, there will be no after school at this point. Typically, after school starts in around January for us because we do a big push for that before we go for milestone testing. And it could be something that we reevaluate towards that time and we, implement in January. But as of right now, there will be no after-school programs. We're excited for the year to come back, for the students to come back and for the year to start. We want to do everything that we feasibly can to ensure that our staff and our students are safe. We're very appreciative of our community's input and their involvement in this. I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Ropey at this time so that he can conclude tonight's forum.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. I hope the community can see that we are excited about an upcoming school year, and also to just reiterate some of the things that have been mentioned. A lot of work. These individuals that spoke tonight and some of their supporting staff at their schools or within their department have done a lot of work to look at how this would be for us as a district and how can we safely educate our students. One of the questions that we also want to make sure that we share with our community is we're looking at a minimum 2-week delayed start. That would put us coming back to school the first day for students on August the 20th. And the reason that we are asking that we have a minimum of a 2-week delayed start is the number of different things that we've talked about today are things that are different that we have not had to do in the past. We want to assure the community and our students that when they return to us, we have a plan in place that is straightforward, that is simple, and it's something that we can follow. We do not want the students to come back and for us to not be prepared and our teachers not to be prepared. We're looking at distance learning as a major option for our community to be able to provide that education for their students, but there's a number of different electronic platforms that we would be utilizing for that. Training is necessary for us to be able to have our teachers comfortable and prepared to be able to move forward with that. So we will be looking at a minimum of August the 20th start date, and based on any changes within the COVID numbers or the safety of our students and staff, that could potentially be extended. But we are right at this moment very optimistic about us starting school with students on August the 20th. We are having mandatory flex days for our staff 3 days before we were traditionally scheduled for pre-planning. That gives us roughly about 3 weeks for us to have staff on site for us to be able to train, practice, look for possible loopholes and problems within these platforms. So we are looking at a delayed school start with students for 2 weeks so that we can be fully prepared. And when I do say fully prepared, we do understand that there will be problems. We don't expect this to be a seamless school year, and there will be things that happen. I can guarantee you every first day of school, it always lasts a little bit longer. You know, kids are getting used to the schedule. You got kids coming to school for the first time. We're looking at doing temperature checks at each of our buildings. We probably won't start instruction that first day exactly when we've done it in the past. So there will be so many moving pieces to this school year that make things a little bit different, but we want to make a commitment to not only our students, but our community, that we are taking safety seriously, and we want to have that best plan possible for our students, which again is why we're asking for a delayed school start of 2 weeks. Just to reiterate some of the things that we've talked about, we mentioned a survey. that we would like the community to provide us feedback. This survey will need to be done by this Friday, the 17th, July 17th. Also, the Learning at Home commitment form, we're asking next Thursday for that form to be completed. You will find these forms this afternoon as soon as we finish up today on the district website and also our district Facebook page. We will share these forms with you, and you will be able to provide that feedback to us. Again, survey results this Friday, commitment forms for online remote learning next Thursday. Transportation is something that we didn't touch on, and I want to just make some quick points about transportation. We're encouraging kids, any kids at any time, to wear a mask. We are not mandating this. This is not a recommendation from DPH. They are not recommending that we mandate positive test results for students to come to school, because they can be positive today or negative today and positive tomorrow. So when we're looking at those types of things, when people are saying, are you mandating? The district is not mandating masks to be worn by staff or students, but hear me out. We are highly encouraging people to wear masks. We will be wearing masks as staff members, but at certain times there'll be, it won't be most feasible for a teacher to have a mask on at certain times. But we will provide masks for our staff, but students, we will be looking at the options, and there's various options with the ages of our students, and we are currently looking at what that would mean. But as a parent, we want to make sure you understand, if you want your child to wear a mask, we encourage and we support that. On the bus, we're going to take that same approach. It's not mandated that students wear masks. However, we highly encourage and we support that masks be worn. Again, this is the guidance we've received from DPH, and us not following any mandates that be required. And buses will be sprayed at the end of each day. As we've mentioned a number of times, we got Ecovasive coming in, spraying our schools 4 times a year, and that includes our buses. But also we're buying sprayers, as Mr. Crosby alluded to earlier, to spray down our PE equipment, our playground equipment, and they will also have a machine to spray down our buses in the evening. I just want to finish up by saying this. We understand that this may not alleviate all fears that you may have for a return to school as a parent or as a teacher. It is for this reason that any option that we are in, whether it's the traditional / remote learning option, the hybrid AB schedule, along with remote learning, or when we have to totally go remote learning. Remote learning will always be an option for our parents and our students. If you feel that this plan that we've put together, and we understand and we support that, we want you to understand we feel like you have to have that option so you can make the best decision for your student and your child. So please understand, we recognize the fact that this plan may not answer every question you may have. Over the course of 350 questions submitted to us, we understand that maybe every one of those questions was not answered this evening. But what I do ask is, if we move forward with this plan, it will be a plan that may require some changes. We ask that everyone be patient with that, but we have to make a plan, and we have to get ready for our students to come back and move forward. We welcome feedback, and I ask if there's a specific question that you may have that was not answered this evening, if you would make note of that question, and if you would email your principal or your individual leadership team members at your school. We will be working throughout the rest of the week looking at the feedback we received from the community about our plan, and we may be able to get you an answer as early as the end of the week. Our plan, though, for us to be able to communicate to you what will be the final product to start the school year is that with the results that we received from the survey that we are closing this Friday, the 17th, we will meet and I will share information with our board members to allow them to provide feedback to it. And then also we will meet as a leadership team to put final touches on this plan next week. We hope that we will be able to share our final plan sometime either Wednesday or Thursday of next week. We feel confident that this plan will be able to provide our kids a great education. I'm excited. I love kids. I love being around the students, and I'm ready for them to be back. And everyone in this room, including the staff members in all our schools, are ready for a sense of normalcy to return to our community, and that starts with our schools. I don't know any other aspect within our daily lives that has so many moving pieces that COVID may affect than what we do with our students during the school day. And we don't take what we're doing lightly, and we appreciate your support and your trust in us to be able to provide that education to our students. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And as always, go Jackets. Thank you.